Welcome back to The Giver by Lois Lowry. Today we will be reading Chapter 15. Chapter 15 is, it's about Jonas learning about warfare and how horrible warfare is. The chapter starts like this. Jonas entered the annex room and realized immediately that it was a day when he would be sent away. The Giver was rigid in his chair, his face in his hands. I'll come back tomorrow, sir, he said quickly. Then he hesitated. Unless there's maybe something I can do to help? The Giver looked at him, his face contorted with suffering. Please, he gasped, take some of this pain. Jonas helped him to his chair at the side of the bed. Then he quickly removed his tunic and lay face down. Put your hands on me, he directed, aware that in such anguish, the Giver might need reminding. The hands came, and the pain came with them and through them. Jonas braced himself and entered the memory which was torturing the Giver. He was in a confused, noisy, foul-smelling place. It was daylight, early in the morning, and the air was thick with smoke that hung yellow and brown above the ground. Around him, everywhere, far across the expanse of what seemed to be a field, lay groaning men. A wild-eyed horse, its bridle torn and dangling, trotted frantically through the mounds of men, tossing its head, whining in panic. It stumbled, finally, then fell, and did not rise. Jonas heard a voice next to him. Water, the voice said in a parched, croaking whisper. He turned his head towards the voice and looked into the half-closed eyes of a boy who seemed not much older than himself. Dirt streaked the boy's face and his matted blonde hair. He lay sprawled, his gray uniform glistening with wet, fresh blood. The colors of the carnage were grotesquely bright. The crimson wetness on the rough and dusty fabric. The ripped shreds of grass, startlingly green in the boy's hair. The boy stared at him. Water, he begged again. When he spoke, a new spurt of blood drenched down the coarse cloth across his chest and sleeve. One of Jonas's arms was immobilized with pain, and he could see through his own torn sleeve something that looked like ragged flesh and splintery bone. He tried his remaining arm and felt it move. Slowly, he reached to his side, felt the metal container there, and removed its cap, stopping the small motion from his hand now and then to wait for the surging pain to ease. Finally, when the container was open, he extended his arm slowly across the blood-soaking earth, inch by inch, and held it to the lips of the boy. Water trickled down the imploring mouth and down the grimy chin. The boy sighed. His head fell back, his lower jaw dropping as if he had been surprised by something. A dull blankness slid slowly across his eyes. He was silent, but the noise continued all around. The cries of the wounded men, the cries begging for water and for mother and for death. Horses lying on the ground shrieked, raised their heads, and stabbed randomly towards the sky with their hooves. From the distance, Jonas could hear the thud of cannons. Overwhelmed by pain, he lay there in the fearsome stench for hours, listened to the men and animals die, and he learned what warfare meant. Finally, when he knew that he could bear it no longer and welcome death himself, he opened his eyes and was once again on the bed. The Giver looked away, as if he could not bear to see what he has done with Jonas. Forgive me, he said. Well, that concludes chapter 15. This was by far the most bloodiest and most brutal of all of the chapters. But we saw that the giver was in tremendous pain, and Jonas asked if he can take away some of that pain. As the giver agreed, the giver gave Jonas a memory of warfare. Jonas then saw a kid, a blonde-haired kid, that had blood all over his shirt and was begging for water. So that made Jonas realize how horrible warfare was and how horrible it is. And that's the end of chapter 15. Come back to our channel to find out what happens next in chapter 16, maybe other chapter 17, 18, 19, etc. Keep wondering and stay curious. Until the next time, adios.